Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is a truly interesting game compared to other Dragon Ball Z games. The only other Dragon Ball Z game that really broke the mold and went somewhere different other than fighting story was the Dead by Daylight version of Dragon Ball Z, where you have a supervillain hunting you down. But instead, they decided to follow the story as normal with this game, but they decided to make it more like an RPG. My first playthrough, I found it very boring, but now, after giving it some time and playing through it again, I've come to really appreciate the game, not only for its RPG elements, its fighting, but also in the sense that this game has done its job to expand the Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball universe. You know, we're bringing back Launch, we're bringing back the guy who sits at the bottom of the Kami Tower, you know, the tent dude. And that's fantastic. That's things we don't get. We don't even get that in Super. It's really funny, actually. When I launched this game, I was a bit surprised at the intro. I was expecting the American intro where it's just the rock music playing. Here, I'll play a clip of it right now. Yeah, so as you can see, it's just a bunch of clips from the show. Like, you can hear that they turned the audio down because you can hear them screaming and everything in the background clips, and you got this fucking rock song going on. It's a pretty good intro. I love it, honestly. I wish we had it in here too. Also, one last little funny thing to mention. I wrote a note down on this, but when I launched my game, I got a Windows security message. What am I getting Windows security message for Dragon Ball Z Kakarot? I don't understand why. It never happened again though, so it's not like it has like performance issues at all. Okay, and one last thing. Who the hell decided to add a card game? So as you launch this game, you'll get to the menu and you'll be bombarded with, you know, just pop-ups. And once you get through those pop-ups, one of the options on the screen you'll see is the Dragon Ball Z card game. And as far as I knew, nobody even played the card game in real life. So I'm very curious, like, how they even run this. I don't know. It's quite the mystery to me. But either way, let's finally get into the game now. So Dragon Ball Kakarot starts off in, like, an excellent place, in my opinion. It starts off right before you go off to Kami's house with Goku and Gohan. Basically, this entire starting area is just a tutorial for you to get used to the controls, but it's also a good chance to show that Goku isn't the worst father on the planet, and he does actually care about Gohan. He's not that bad of a father, guys. He's just a fighter. I'm sorry. Wait a minute, Goku, what are you doing with that tell? Oh, no, Goku, no! I think Gohan might need therapy after seeing what you just did there, Goku. Yeah, so Numbnuts Goku here decided to have Bulma make him an artificial tail instead of just going and buying a fucking fishing rod. And then he decides, hey, Gohan, family tradition here. We love shoving tails up our ass. What the hell, Goku? Jokes aside, this entire moment's really nice to see between Goku and Gohan. We didn't get a lot of moments in the show with them, and it's just nice to see Goku sitting back and being a parent, you know? I don't know, there's just something really adorable about it. I also want to take a moment and point out that every time you click on, or you bring up your menu, it actually changes the little picture here. And the picture's really cool looking too. I think it just is drawn so well. Other than sometimes Goku's jaw looks a little bigger than it should be, but hey, you know, price of beauty art, right? So you may remember me saying that this game is an RPG. How is it an RPG? So far, I've seen you carry a child around. It's more like a walking child simulator. Well, let me tell you, you can cook meals and fish. Woo! You already knew about fishing. But you can cook meals and they give you percentage buffs, you know, 15% extra buff to your ki blast or whatnot. They also give you permanent stats like plus 50 health and plus, I don't know, 2 ki. And that's not bad after a while if you're constantly cooking. But if you're like me and you're lazy, then they never really stack up. So eat them foods, eat them vegetables, kids. Now, I did fail to mention that you can only make the full course meals at Chi Chi. Chi Chi makes full course meals, and they are what give you your big buffs for like 30 minutes. If you cook something over a fireplace that you will find, and I'll have a clip up in the background, usually you'll find these fireplaces all throughout the world as you're flying around, and they will give you basically a full restore of health and then like a very small buff for you if you cook one of your ingredients instead. So most of the time you want to save your ingredients unless you really need a heal and you don't have any healing items. You want to save them for Chi Chi or like one of the food vending machines. So you can actually add those ingredients together and get like significant buffs out of it. Two things I want to bring up quickly, because we're not going to stay in an open world environment for very long, is that I love the fact that there's always, if you have a party member or even if you're alone, there's always just some dialogue going on. I'm sure a lot of people will find that annoying, but I find that just, I don't know, it lightens the mood and adds on to the characters. It makes them feel, you know, they're not real, but it makes them feel more in depth, if that's the better way to put it. And overall, I just really appreciate the effort that they put into the characters themselves. You may also see me on Nimbus right now, which is very interesting. A little bit later, it'll show us that we have the option for vehicles. So like we can use Nimbus to fly around at like a decent speed while using key, or you can just fly around like normal and use your key and fly at like super speed, and it's faster, but you use your key, so if you get in a fight, you're down like half your key, but it regenerates quite fast. So I don't really see much of like it's not that big of a debuff to not use the vehicles, is what I'm saying. So catching up to the story, it's all going basically how you expect it to go. Goku flies over to Kame House with Gohan, and then his brother comes and is like, yo, I know like you don't, you know, bloodlust, I take son. Krillin's like, why, hello, nice to meet you, sir. Ah, and then gets punched. Except for in this version of the in this game, he doesn't get slapped by the tail, he just kind of stands there staring at Raditz very angrily. So yeah, no, that's basically what happens in like the next 5 minutes. Something I want to bring up, and the reason why I talk so quickly through that, is that there happens to be a problem in cutscenes that are not like fully animated, that are like with the in-game rendering, where characters just kind of awkwardly stand around staring at each other. And I've noticed that the game isn't lip synced, and I believe that's probably because it's just dubbed over. And that's not that big of a problem, but I do find it weird that things like Krillin not getting sent through the house by Raditz and stuff like that, like it's basically just like minor stuff like that basically isn't added. I'm pretty sure there will be another example later on, and I'll go and bring these up as I notice them as well. But it's just a little interesting thing I wanted to point out. Since Goku's staring into the soul of Nam right now, we might as well go over side quests. Side quests are kind of interesting. Most of them end up being, you fly up to someone, you talk to them, and they're like, please beat these people up. Thank you for beating these people up. And then sometimes you get other ones where you're flying around looking for items, and then you come back and then you fight 3 people, harassing the person that you're giving an item back to. And for the most part, that's what it seems to be, the overall structure, that or like, you know, being sent to go find someone to fight instead. And I have one, or some footage with Aether. Right, and Aether is, it's cool to see Aether again. I definitely see Goku interact with him. It's just, you know, it's those little things like that that just make me really love this game. But the quest itself, like the side quest itself, isn't too interesting necessarily. It's just like, hey, hi, what are you doing? What are you doing with your life now? Okay, cool. One thing that is cool though is that you'll see Nam pop up throughout the game, and this actually happens with other side quests too, characters, and you'll see them throughout the quest doing their own little thing. Like at some point, Nam will be in the desert where Yamcha used to live. I don't know if he still lives in the desert, like as of Z and Super. But yeah, no, Nam's out there, and he's like, I just want to fight the bandit Yamcha. He was at the World Tournament. I want to fight this man. And, you know, like I said earlier, that is a cool little bit of world building that you just do not get to see in the show because we're busy following, you know, the main cast of characters. And stuff like this is just, I don't know. Stuff like this is what makes the open world of this game really brilliant. This game is beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. I love the way that it's integrated every little area that we've seen in the Dragon Ball world into one big, you know, cohesive plate. Obviously, there's locations separated from each other on the world map, which I'll show right now. And you can see you have like about, I don't know, like 8 areas. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's a decent amount of areas to go. A lot of these areas, though, come in pairs of 2. They're the same area, but the areas are usually stretched out far enough that, you know, having that quick little fast travel point back from West City to Capsule, or not West City, Capsule Corp, but like, you know, Ginger City to West City, they're in like 2 little different areas of the same map, so it's nice to have that fast travel option, just in case you don't want to be flying around for like 5 minutes. One quick little thing, this is very unrelated, but I wanted to bring up. I wrote a note down on this, I thought it was a pretty good idea. I think Gohan meeting Aether and growing up with Aether, and then Cell killing Aether, would have been such a bigger snapping point, not only for Goku in a situation where he realizes that he's as strong as he is and he still can't really protect his friend, and that's just a crushing blow to Goku's fucking entire confidence. But then you have Gohan, who grew up from a child with this peaceful android that doesn't like fighting unless he absolutely has to. And I think that's just such a good parallel to play off of. Well, not parallel. They're basically like, it's just robot Gohan basically. But yeah, no, I think there would have been a lot more of emotional value than just Android 16 randomly popping up. All right, back on track. The open world, like I said, is beautiful. Flying around, the locations have a lot of identity to them. They all look kind of different. They all got their own little separate areas. One of my favorite places to go is Blake Bog. It's kind of just a lake. Well, not even a lake. It's just kind of like a swamp with a lot of trees. I'll have some footage in the background. It's a really nice looking area, and I really like this big tree. I don't know why, but every time you fly by it, any character that you fly by this tree, they always make a fucking comment about it. Also, I found this sleeping dinosaur. I don't know what he's doing here, but that's neat. I won't be getting into it too much for this entire thing, other than maybe talking about a few cutscenes and talking about the bosses. But I also want to say that, like, places even like Namek, which are very, repeated terrain, even they look gorgeous. Other than when you fly underwater or on Namek and it's just dead, everything's dead. Also, there's fish on Namek, which is really weird. And since I forgot to mention this, there is also another side quest which is pretty interesting on Namek. And it's where you encounter a Namekian that can't drink water and eats Namekian fruit, which, holy shit, there's Namekian fruit. Anyways, yeah, that's one of those side quests that pop up on Namek. It's one of those go find this item, beat up these people, but the dialogue itself is it's so lush. The dialogue is so lush for the entire rest of the series world building that I can't help but not love it. So as you might have noticed throughout all this, I have been flying around collecting these orbs. What are these orbs for? Well, like I said earlier, this game functions like an RPG. So you collect these orbs as like a form of skill currency, and you use them to invest into your character to upgrade your attacks and special attacks and whatnot. And one of the only things I have to complain about is that I can't play as Krillin. I don't know why that pisses me off. He's only an assist character. So really, basically, most of the time you're going to be playing as the Saiyans and Piccolo, and everybody else is basically a side character. They're just assists. But Krillin has this dope-ass solar flare, and that thing is like a lifesaver. But past that, you might notice that a character like Krillin only has like 5 skills level up. Meanwhile, you look at Goku and holy shit, his skill set is more expansive than the ocean. Like, what is going on here? Obviously, it's because Goku's a playable character and Krillin isn't, but I want to play Krillin. I'm sorry. Speaking on how beautiful this game is, the cutscenes in this game, especially the main ones like Goku going Super Saiyan or fighting Nappa or going Kaioken against Vegeta and the Kamehameha and Gallic Gun, all of it looks immaculate. They really put their heart and soul into these cutscenes, and honestly, they speak for themselves. Really, they are just beautiful. They're some of the best cutscenes I've seen since Burst Limit. I thought Burst Limit looked amazing even to this day. So overall, I'm a big fan of just every cutscene in this game. It does drag on a bit because, it's going over the entire show and there's a cutscene every 5 fucking minutes, which kind of disrupts, like, the actual gameplay itself occasionally. But, for the most part, you always have an option to skip a cutscene too, which is great. And you can always go back and watch them inside this little collections book here, which also has a cool little relations chart, which is pretty neat. The only thing I would complain about is that I feel like they cut down Goku's transformation to Super Saiyan a bit. Like, it felt like a whole 10 to 15 seconds shorter, because I remember him yelling a lot more and a lot more thunder going off. But past that, this game, beautiful. Cutscene, perfect, honestly. Something I truly appreciate about the Super Saiyan transformations in this game, and any transformation at all, is that it really brings back the majestic nature of the transformations. The auras are blazing in just such a nice looking way. The hair looks soft, which is something that always bugged me about Super Saiyan. The hair just became fucking pointy sticks when originally when you first see it, it's a very soft look to it. And I don't understand why we moved away from that, because I always felt like that worked really well with the way Super Saiyan was presented, at least for Goku. I guess Vegeta being more aggressive of a character would make sense out of that pointy spiky hair. But Goku's nice, like, soft, flushed, it blows in the wind, and that is just beautiful. Hair physics, it makes the difference. Dragon Ball Super. Hair physics. Just fucking add them. Coming towards something of an end here, I guess it's best that I actually talk about the combat now. The combat is very iffy for me. It feels very sticky in some places, and then sometimes it's smooth as butter. And it's really hard to explain unless you just actually play it yourself. But sometimes you're supposed to be able to combo your basic abilities into, like a body shot or something, one of your special abilities. And sometimes it works perfectly, and then sometimes it doesn't. And you just see the little thing pop up and then go off, like the little menu, and you just can't get your attack off until you like bring up the menu like 3 times spamming X, which is really unfortunate because it really throws you off, especially since the special attack menu slows down time. So it can really throw off the entire like flow of a fight if you go to combo a physical attack into, or normal attack into a special physical attack, and then you just stand there looking retarded. I've had that happen a few times, especially when I try to use like a key blast from a distance, and it's a little annoying. Past that though, every fight looks spectacular. Like I said, there's a lot of spectacle in every one of these fights. Goku versus Frieza, Vegeta versus Goku, both those fights, as you're fighting, they'll play like little cutscenes through them, and it just really, it makes the fight feel so much more intense in the moment. Like I said, the game has spectacle, and that is its big leading advantage over every other Dragon Ball Z game, I feel like, other than like maybe Tenkaichi 3 because of just how brutally fast that game was. Overall, with its combat, the game absolutely tries to recreate the anime feel to the fights, the dramatic stakes and everything, and I feel like it did absolutely brilliant, really, truly. I can't say I haven't seen a game this good since what I said previously, Burst Limit. So one thought they had, which was pretty good honestly in hindsight, is that they decided to commingle the bosses with the open world. And what do I mean by that? I mean that they added these things called villainous enemies. Now when you try to read their key, it's actually blinding. So your first 3 villainous, or 4 or 5 maybe villainous enemies, will be just the normal robots you've been fighting up to this point. And they are not very much different. They just are stronger. They have more health. They do the same things. After that, though, you'll see, after you defeat them all, you'll get like another key read or something. King Kai will come down and be like, yo, Nappa and Raditz are back. And they hit like trucks, but I mean, the AI isn't the smartest in this game, I'll be honest. I've been playing on hard, so, if I can make it through, you definitely can make it through. But after this, you get an interesting cutscene with Toa, and it's like, yo, Toa's in this timeline. So this makes me wonder if this is the timeline where it's actually Xeno Goku, and he gets killed by Toa and Mira at some point. Which could be actually a fucking brilliant twist, even though I know it's not because we're already in the Super timeline. But whatever, I can hope. Oh, and also with fights, this is the last thing I wanted to mention with fights specifically, is that I find it kind of annoying that you can't have ground combat. Like, you can't be on the ground. It's really weird that you're just constantly floating all the time, especially when you start a fight and then both characters just gently float up into the air and then just stare at each other. And also when you finish a fight, the enemies just stare at you. They teleport back and just stare at you. In other games, they would like lay on the ground or something dead. I don't know, knocked out. But this game, they just give you the stare of death. Overall, this game is amazing. We get interactions between characters we never get to see in the main show, and new interactions with characters we see all the time from the main show. And interactions between literally both those groups, which just make very, I don't know, just interesting little mini stories that appear in the Dragon Ball universe. And I think that's what Dragon Ball Z is missing at this point. We have such a grandiose story going on that we lost the little stories, And I'm not talking about little stories as in filler with like the Goo Vegeta or Garlic Jr. arc, even though that was kind of funny. But just like, what is Launch doing right now? Where the hell is Launch? Turns out Launch lives with Master Roshi. I'll have that playing in the background. But yeah, no, like, just all these small little things. Considering I made a video reviewing this, I now say maybe it's time I convince you to buy this, perhaps. Or maybe not. I'm not a salesman. But either way, if you're interested in this game, I just want to give you one cutscene between right after the Frieza saga and before the Android saga. And it's a cutscene between, not cutscene, it's a little side quest between Gohan and Chi-Chi. Basically, Ox King is like, yo, Chi-Chi's upset, and Gohan walks in the house, and, I'll just play it going forward here.
Oh, well. Hooray! That was delicious! Hey! Yeah! Okay! Okay!
As you can see, Chi-Chi is known to be like a good mom to Gohan, maybe a bit stressful, but we never see that in the show. But now, with this game, we've been shown a situation where She was upset and she turned that into a moment just to make Gohan happy. And that's just brilliant. I don't know. It really just shows how good of a mom Gohan has. It makes me like Chi-Chi more as a character, because before I always found Chi-Chi annoying, but this is kind. I can be empathetic to this instead of her just yelling at the kid all the time. So, should you buy this game? You know, based off that one cutscene, I truly think that this is a game worth everybody's time that's actually like a Dragon Ball Z or Super, even Dragon Ball, GT too. It won't cover you GT fans, but you can join us in this circle jerk of a great game. Either way, it's a good game, and I've completely fallen in love with it. Funny enough, I thought it was annoying for a while. Only thing I want to complain about before I get off completely of this video is that later on in the game, the enemies do tend to become bullet sponges, for lack of a better term. And it can get annoying. The fights can be long and tedious. But past that, if you're looking for just, you know, just to dive into the Dragon Ball universe for a little while, fly around, enjoy some side quests, pick up some items, then yeah, no, I mean, this is actually, that entire part of the game is fucking brilliant. I mean, they did really well. I just think the combat needed to be cleaned up a little bit, but past that, this is really just absolutely a 9 out of 10 game. It's literally just the stickiness of combat, and that might just be a skill issue. But other than that, yeah, that's been that, and I'm out. Leave a like.